Hey guys, tonight we're going to float somewhere strange above the mortal world, beyond the laziest clouds, and straight into the weather lab of Dionysus. Yeah, that Dionysus, the god of wine. Wild parties, questionable decisions, and very little clothing. But tonight, he's not just planning another drunken theater performance. No, he's trying something far more chaotic. He wants to change the weather. You wake up barefoot in a vineyard, but not the earthly kind. You're standing on something soft, squishy, and suspiciously grape-scented beneath your feet. Clouds above your head. More clouds, except they're growing vines, rows of them, some with fat, glittering grapes, some with wriggling little weather sprites trying to hide behind leaves. In the distance, Dionysus is shouting at a group of geese. They're wearing tiny togas. You hear him say, "Crush them gently. You feathered fools, we want thunder, not jam." You're pretty sure none of this is medically advisable. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop a comment telling me where you're listening from and what time it is over there. I want to know who's drifting off beneath a thunderstorm and who's secretly watching at the office. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You take a few cautious steps forward. The clouds puff softly beneath your weight, like you're walking on marshmallow pillows soaked in Pinot Noir. Dionysus turns as you approach, his crown of ivy leaves bouncing like he's just finished wrestling with a goat. "Oh, good," he says. "You're finally awake. Hold this." He hands you a goblet filled with what looks like liquid weather. It swirls with tiny lightning bolts and a splash of deep purple. You sniff it. Smells like a thunderstorm after it's been partying with a juice box. "What is it?" you ask. He grins like a teenager with a stolen god license. "It's grape-flavored rain. I'm working on a whole line. This one's Cabernet Monsoon." You stare into the cup. Somewhere in its depths, a tiny cloud burps. Dionysus twirls, arms outstretched. Imagine it. No more boring drizzle or soul-crushing fog. Just mood-based weather. Feeling spicy. Jalapeno hail. Feeling sad. Gentle rosé mist. Feeling bold. Sparkling wine lightning. You nod slowly. This sounds both irresponsible and oddly relaxing. Above your head, the grapevines shudder. A ripe bunch of clouds bursts, releasing a mist that smells like a farmer's market on a Sunday. A group of pigeons nearby immediately start hiccuping in unison. One of them begins reciting Homer in fluent Latin. And yet, the sky sparkles with potential. As you follow Dionysus through the vineyard, he explains the basics of divine meteorology. He says most weather is honestly just Zeus sneezing at the wrong time, and that the current system lacks flavor. His dream, custom, small-batch atmospheric events, of artisan rainstorms, boutique hurricanes. Zeus uses the sky like a bored landlord. "I say we throw a festival up there," he declares, stomping a grape and sending a purple ripple across the clouds. Historians still argue whether Dionysus truly attempted to trademark party weather, or if this was just another myth garbled through centuries of wine-fueled storytelling. But evidence does exist. Ancient wine jugs inscribed with terms like fog-aged and sunset-fermented. One fresco in a rural villa even shows what looks like a man holding a goblet to the sky, catching raindrops as if waiting for a refill. Dionysus leads you to a bubbling spring, except instead of water, it's filled with purple fizz. He dips a finger in and hums, "Still too dry. Needs more thunder." He tosses in a handful of raisins like he's seasoning soup. The spring burps and emits a low rumble, like a lazy lion snoring. You sit nearby on a warm patch of cloud grass, just letting it all drift in. The scent of grapevine oil tickles your nose. A passing breeze smells suspiciously like crushed basil and morning dew. Somewhere behind you, a goat giggles. You're not sure if it's a real goat. You don't really want to know. Dionysus suddenly turns philosophical. "You know," he says, "weather and mood are cousins. Both ruin picnics. Both sneak up on you. So why not make them friends?" It's a fair point. One modern psychological theory, admittedly not peer-reviewed, suggests that Dionysus was the first god to recognize seasonal affective disorder. His answer, weather that adjusts to your feelings, not the other way around. A fringe group of Hellenic scholars even claim that Dionysus's cloud vineyards once hovered over Thebes for 6 full weeks, prompting a local spike in poetry, sleepwalking, and mysterious grape-stained togas found in fountains. You ask if the wine weather is safe for mortals. He shrugs. Define safe. You might forget your name for a few minutes, but isn't that the point? Fair. Before you can object, the vineyard begins to hum. The clouds darken not with storm, but with ripe readiness. Dionysus lifts his goblet skyward and declares, "Let the forecast be delicious." The first drop falls soft, cold, and unmistakably Merlot. Welcome to the weather revolution. The second drop hits you squarely on the nose. It's chilly, vaguely sweet, and lingers with notes of blackberry. And what on earth am I drinking with my face? You blink up. The clouds above ripple like a cauldron of purple potion, and from their silky surface, the rain begins in earnest. Except it's not just rain, it's a coordinated effort. Tiny weather sprites, wearing tunics stitched from grape skins, dart about with funnels and ropes. One of them salutes you with a cork. Another drops what appears to be a weather menu on it. Today's forecast reads, flavor, Concord thunder, mood, spontaneous dancing, side effects, sticky elbows. You turn to Dionysus. He's absolutely glowing with delight and possibly a mild fever from overexcitement. You see, it's working. It's finally working. Grape-flavored weather. He cackles and pops a handful of olive-stuffed dates into his mouth, like it's popcorn. He's been experimenting for weeks, apparently, trying to capture not just flavor, but essence. The wind, for example, shouldn't just blow it, should flirt. The fog should arrive like a mystery lover at the edge of memory. Rain. Rain should taste like nostalgia and party punch. You nod slowly, as if that all makes sense. In theory, this might be the most ambitious crossover between viticulture and meteorology ever attempted. In practice, it's chaos. Below you, yes, you can now see below the mortal world is reacting in all the wrong ways. 3 cities have already filed complaints. Delphi says its temple steps are too slippery from Pinot rain. Corinth blames fermented drizzle for 2 weddings and a goat parade, collapsing into a joint bachelorette party. And Athens. Athens has invented a new word that translates loosely to, "Please stop making the air taste like drunk jam." You float gently closer to Dionysus, who is now trying to siphon part of the sky into a bottle. He's got a funnel. The funnel is made of cloud bone, a mythical material historians still argue about. Some say it was invented by Hermes as a joke. Others believe it was simply linen soaked in thunder. As you watch, he leans over a patch of purple cumulonimbus and slurps. "Needs more body," he says, then frowns. "Maybe fewer frogs." You hear a ribbit somewhere behind you. A sticky frog lands in your lap. It smells faintly of syrah and regret. You sigh. "Okay," you say, "but how exactly are you bottling weather?" Dionysus doesn't answer right away. Instead, he gestures toward a nearby trellis where thunderclouds hang like fruit. He plucks one down. It makes a wet thwomp noise and pierces it with a vine needle. A stream of mist flows out, curling into the air like scented smoke. "See," he explains, "clouds are mostly water. Yes, but emotional water, just like tears, or bath steam, or the dew that gathers on a nervous first date. That actually tracks." He stores each bottle with a wax seal and a bronze label etched in ancient Greek, which you're told roughly translates to names like Soggy Mood 7, Rain of Infinite Hugs, and Purple Screaming from the West. The last one, he says, isn't for casual drinkers. You take a seat on a squishy ledge of marshmallow storm. Below, the first of the weather batches hits a village square. People look up, confused, then mildly delighted. Children start chasing wine-colored puddles. A dog sneezes itself drunk. But with delight comes reaction. Hermes zips past on his sandal skates, holding a scroll and laughing uncontrollably. "You've broken 12 laws of seasonal scheduling," he shouts over his shoulder, and one of them involves a prophecy. Dionysus waves him off. Prophecies are just opinions wearing fancy hats. A fringe group of ancient scholars, mostly temple librarians with chronic insomnia, once argued that Dionysus tried to patent cloud fermentation using a goat-shaped distillery. While no artifacts remain, there are records of laws briefly proposed banning aggressively scented fog. These were quickly repealed after the wine industry lobbied hard with ceremonial toasts. Back in the clouds, a small weather sprite hiccups thunder and spins out. You catch it gently in a grape basket. It giggles, then vanishes with a puff of raisin-scented smoke. You're starting to suspect this whole operation may be slightly underregulated. Dionysus, meanwhile, is now testing Storm Blush. It's a pink-tinted drizzle that makes people cry at sunsets for no reason. The first test batch accidentally hit a Spartan training ground. Apparently, one soldier recited a love poem mid-duel. You say, some people might prefer just normal weather. Dionysus looks at you like you've just said, I enjoy chewing cardboard. Normal is a tragedy with bad lighting. He replies, weather should feel something. It should sing. Just then, the sky lurches sideways. A misfired breeze picks up speed, carrying you and Dionysus across the cloudscape like two picnic blankets caught in a cyclone of sentimentality. You pass a squall of confused seagulls, then shoot through a patch of grape mist so thick you can taste toast. The world tilts. The sky burps. You land in a heap on a puff of giggling cumulostratus. Note to self, Dionysus mutters, dusting grape skins off his tunic. Bottle corks need more dignity. Far below, temples begin to light signal fires. Priests throw up their hands. Farmers try to water crops with umbrellas. The skies above them now taste like a vineyard in a blender, and no one can agree on whether to celebrate or sue. You lie back against a soft patch of sky and let the drizzle tickle your cheeks. The world is sticky, the air is giddy, and Dionysus' drunken genius that he is just might pull it off, or completely ruin the weather forever. You're not sure if the clouds are spinning, or if your blood sugar just gave up. The air smells like crushed berries and accidental poetry. Somewhere behind you, Dionysus is shaking a rain stick made of hollow grapevines and chanting something that sounds suspiciously like a party anthem from 200 BCE. Then it happens. The sky exhales. A slow, syrupy breeze pushes across the horizon. It's warm, it's damp, and it smells like a wine cellar caught in a lightning storm. 1 second, you're watching a violet-colored cloud puff up like a proud souffle. The next, boom! Lightning. Except not normal lightning. This bolt zips sideways like a drunk swordfish and giggles. Actually giggles. It's purple. It leaves behind the scent of burnt honey and forgotten birthdays, and it zaps a nearby flock of birds into spontaneous harmony. You can hear them warbling an off-key version of a drinking song. Dionysus claps wildly. Yes, that's the drunken rainstorm we were missing. He turns to you, eyes sparkling. Come on, you have to ride it. You open your mouth to politely decline, and that's when the thundercloud grabs you. It's like being hugged by a storm with jazz hands. The cloud lifts you off the grapevine ground, spins you once unnecessarily, and hurls you straight into the heart of a swirling rain spiral. You tumble, float, and finally land upright inside the very first drunken rainstorm tent. Welcome. The walls are mist. The floor is suggestion. There's a goat with a cocktail umbrella for a hat. He nods at you solemnly. You look up. The ceiling is a slow-motion swirl of fermented air currents, grape juice, vapor, and accidental perfume. You breathe in and immediately feel tipsy. The humidity here doesn't just cling to your clothes. It taps you on the shoulder and tells you secrets about your childhood. Then it pats your back like a proud aunt. Outside, the mortals are not enjoying this nearly as much. Reports begin flooding in from coastal villages. Rain that makes people dance involuntarily. Grape-colored fog ruining laundry. And fish that now smell like they've been marinated. One local priest describes it as a Dionysian sky cough, which, let's be honest, is not entirely inaccurate. Still, inside this storm, you feel oddly safe. You float lazily through squishy tunnels of warm mist, each scented like a different vintage. You pass through a patch of Cabernet Syrah, then into a soft Riesling draft. The clouds hum with low thunder and faint harp music, played by a sprite with very damp hair. And here's the wild part, there's some truth to it. Mainstream historians acknowledge that ancient Greek celebrations honoring Dionysus often coincided with sudden seasonal storms. Coincidence? Maybe, But there are vase paintings showing revelers mid-feast while curly clouds spiral overhead, raining what looks suspiciously like grapes. One fringe theory claims that Dionysus had access to a portable weather chorus, a group of cloud-summoning poets who could drunkenly chant atmospheric shifts into existence. Back in the storm, Dionysus joins you, drifting along on a lounge chair made from braided rainbows and fig leaves. He pours 2 goblets of fog into your hands. You pretend this makes sense. You know, he says, weather was never supposed to be boring. Thunder was meant to announce things. Like, behold, the goat has opinions. He raises his goblet to weather that talks back. Lightning flashes in agreement. The rain picks up, only it doesn't fall. It dances. You spot droplets pirouetting before landing. One does jazz hands. Another takes a bow. The whole thing feels choreographed by a drunk cloud with a minor in ballet. Dionysus is beside himself with joy. He starts naming the storms. This one's called the Evening of Too Many Plums. That one over there, Cloud 9, was booked, so we made 10. And that moody-looking squall, feelings I texted at midnight. The longer you stay, the stranger it gets. One patch of mist makes you crave olives. Another makes you forget your middle name. The fog here doesn't just obscure vision. It gently insults your fashion choices, then hugs you in apology. A small grape-shaped balloon drifts past, carrying a note tied in golden string. It reads, "Dear gods, please stop. Weather isn't supposed to smell flirty. Athens." Dionysus snorts. Mortals have no taste. And yet, the side effects are stacking up. Back on Earth, bees are pollinating wine instead of flowers. Fields, meant for wheat, now sprout spontaneous grapevines. One unlucky sailor reported drunken wind patterns that sang sea shanties and argued with his compass. Dionysus shrugs when you bring this up. Oh, relax. Zeus floods things all the time and nobody bats an eye. I make one flavorful monsoon and everyone panics like I've set fire to a library goat. You pause. Is that something you've done? He grins. Only once. Historians still argue whether Dionysus ever hijacked actual weather patterns. Most agree that his mythology symbolizes emotional chaos and liberation, but a small, chaotic corner of the academic world believes he literally fermented the skies. Their evidence: ancient amphorae labeled storm brew found buried in volcanic soil, and murals showing grapes raining into open mouths while people twirl in wet togas. You exhale into the swirling mist. It responds by wrapping gently around your face, as if applying moisturizer made of scented nostalgia. The air is drunk, the sky is purple, and you're comfortably stuck inside the most ridiculous weather event in mythological history. Suddenly, Dionysus tugs on your sleeve. Time to try the drizzle shoot, he says. You don't ask questions anymore. You just follow the god of wine through a curtain of plum-scented fog and into a long, twisting tunnel of soft rain. You slide, you float, you spin, thunder hums lullabies around you. As you emerge soaked, sticky, smiling, you realize one very important thing. You've officially survived the world's first drunk thunderstorm. You land in a heap of velvet fog and fizzy drizzle, and for a moment, everything smells like crushed lavender and someone whispering old sea shanties into a wine glass. You sit up slowly. The sky is giggling again. Not the people, the sky. It hiccups, lets out a low rumble that sounds suspiciously like a burp, then releases a puff of shimmering mist shaped like a harp. The humidity here is not ordinary. It's clingy, flirty, and smells faintly of overripe grapes left in a poetry student's backpack for too long. Dionysus leans over you, eyes wide with glee. Humidity, he says, tapping the side of his nose, is the soul of weather. Most people just think of it as the annoying cousin of sweat. But I say, why not give it personality? You wipe a sticky grape peel from your eyebrow. You're about to argue, but then the mist tickles your wrist. Literally, it coils around your skin like a silky snake and purrs. You feel oddly calm, sleepy, as if you've just been complimented by a perfume bottle. This is humidity, but make it Dionysian. You step into the haze, and every inch of it seems curated. Some corners smell like mulled wine and roasted figs. Others have notes of rosemary and goat fur. A passing breeze whispers, "You look stunning." Even with cloud hair, you don't remember asking. But okay, you stroll through this strange weather like it's an open-air spa designed by someone who once threw a toga at the moon. The fog coils around statues, trees, even sleeping birds in hammocks. One raven is wearing eyeliner. You don't ask. As you pass a dew-covered stone tablet, you notice something new: mood fog. Each patch corresponds to a feeling. You walk through bittersweet longing and feel a tug behind your ribs, through spontaneous joy, and your toes start tapping. Then there's existential dread with notes of cinnamon, which makes you crave soup for some reason. Dionysus slides up beside you, holding what appears to be a weather cocktail shaker. This one's called Misty Yearning, he explains, tossing in what looks like a sprig of thyme and a lightning bug. It should make people remember their first heartbreak, but in a cozy way. You raise an eyebrow. You're infusing feelings into the humidity. Of course, he beams. Atmosphere is everything. The Greeks invented theater, drama, olive oil. Why not scented emotional fog? One mainstream historical fact: the ancient Greeks genuinely did associate certain winds with specific moods. The Notos wind was wet and melancholy. Zephyrus was soft and romantic. Poets built entire verses around the emotional qualities of air. A fringe theory even claims that Dionysus had a personal weather assistant, a sprite named Kleos, whose job was to match the fog to the party. You spot Kleos now, buzzing between two thunderclouds while muttering, "Too much nostalgia. We need more scandal in this batch." A bolt of grape-scented lightning zips past. You duck. The longer you're here, the more Dionysus's humid experiment reveals itself as both genius and menace. Yes, the fog feels like a velvet memory. Yes, the drizzle makes your skin smell like apricots. But below, in the mortal realm, disaster. Athenian street vendors are reporting liquid mood swings. Farmers say the grapes are ripening into jam. One unfortunate goat herder claims his entire herd now sighs softly whenever the mist rolls in. His complaint: too poetic. Very inconvenient. Back in the clouds, Dionysus is orchestrating weather like a jazz conductor. He waves a vine wand, and the wind goes soft and moody. He twirls, and mist pirouettes across the sky. A weather sprite coughs up a sonnet and dissolves into sparkles. You point out the mortals seem to be struggling. He shrugs. Mortals always complain about something. If it's not too dry, it's too wet. If it's not too cold, it's too grape-flavored. I'm giving them art. You sit on a mossy outcrop of cloud and watch the world below. The city roofs shimmer with a damp violet sheen. People walk around squinting, unsure whether to laugh, cry, or take up watercolor painting. One man appears to be yelling at a cloud. The cloud responds with passive-aggressive drizzle. Somewhere in the fog, a chorus of frogs begins to sing. Not crow. Sing, in perfect harmony. Dionysus throws his arms wide. Behold, amphibious opera. Historians still argue whether this phenomenon, the so-called frogs of the grape year, was a metaphor for agricultural excess or an actual frog-based musical uprising caused by magical moisture. One scholar insists that the frogs were merely regular frogs affected by fermented dew. Another thinks it was divine intervention. A third has simply stopped responding to emails. You lie back and let the warm mist curl around your limbs. It smells like thyme, crushed amethyst, and the moment before you confess a secret, the humidity feels heavier now, not suffocating, but dense with memory. I call this patch Summer You Weren't Ready to Let Go Of. Dionysus says softly, his voice surprisingly gentle. You don't say anything, just breathe. In this moment, the absurdity fades. The wine storms, the misfired thunder, the frogs with feelings. It all softens into a haze that just wants you to remember, to feel, even if it's ridiculous, especially if it is. Because sometimes, even gods get nostalgic. You're mid-sigh, just beginning to enjoy the plush, sentimental soup of Dionysian humidity. When something odd shifts in the air, it's subtle at first. A slight resistance in the breeze, a change in tone from mellow to offended. You sit up. The grapes in the sky have stopped humming. The mist is no longer waltzing. The drizzle hesitates mid-fall, like it's having second thoughts. And then, from the distance, it begins a sound unlike any weather you've ever heard. Angry fruit. First, it's a murmur. Then it swells, a pulpy chorus of disapproval. You peer into the cloud bank and see a long line of disgruntled fruit spirits marching across the sky apples. Peaches, olives, even a couple of belligerent pomegranates armed with protest signs made of bark and rind. We exist too. You know, sangria is not a weather system. Banana fog is valid. Dionysus doesn't seem alarmed. He's lounging on a chaise made of cloud foam and grapevines, sipping from a goblet labeled pre-storm aperitif. They're just jealous, he says, waving dismissively. I told the apples they could have autumn. But no, everyone wants the sky now. You watch as the fruits gather momentum, forming what looks like the ancient world's first produce union. A rogue fig hurls itself into a thundercloud. The cloud hisses and turns slightly pink with embarrassment. You float closer to the uprising. One particularly passionate apricot stands on a soapbox well, a floating fig crate, and delivers a speech in fruit Greek, which, weirdly, you understand perfectly. Why must everything be grapes? It wails, why not melon mists or mango monsoons? We demand representation. You nod along. They do make a point. Back in the mortal realm, things are escalating. Markets are flooded with weather-warped produce. Lemons that taste like wine, cherries that hum lullabies, and one haunting cucumber that apparently recites breakup poetry if you leave it on the windowsill too long. The oracle at Delphi declares, "The gods have fermented the heavens," and now the olives are unionizing. She's promptly escorted indoors with herbal tea and told to take a nap. You return to Dionysus, who's now fiddling with a weather harp made of grape stems and lightning bugs. They want to overthrow me, he says with mild amusement. I can respect that. Democracy and whatnot. But what if they succeed? You ask. He raises an eyebrow. Then the next rain will probably taste like turnips. Is that what you want? You do not want that. A group of citrus-based radicals storm the southern winds. The air briefly smells like panic and lemonade. One brave orange rolls right up to Dionysus's throne and squeaks, "Equal drizzle for all." He chuckles, pats it, and says, "Shh, you're adorable when you revolt." Mainstream history never recorded a literal fruit rebellion in Greek myths, but some fringe interpretations of harvest festival murals depict unfamiliar cloud creatures. One scholar swears a fig with a spear is visible on a wine jug, dated to 4th century BCE. The traditional reading, allegory. The untraditional reading, actual fruit with grievances. Dionysus finally stands. He stretches like a man who's just remembered he has divine powers, and not just unlimited wine coupons. Okay, he says, maybe we give the other fruits a little drizzle room. A compromise. A tropical intermission. He conjures a swirl of rainbow-tinted fog. The mist begins to shift. You smell pineapple, then kiwi, then papaya. You hear a ukulele, faint but real. The grape clouds grumble, but begin to blend. A new flavor of weather is born. Fruit punch haze. You look around. The once purple sky is now streaked with zesty gold, mint green, and nervous apricot. The marching fruits pause mid-chant, sniff the air, and collectively go, huh. Crisis somewhat averted. Dionysus grins. See, you can lade with grapes, but you must drizzle with diversity. He taps his goblet to yours. The humidity lightens. The angry fruit chants dissolve into murmured satisfaction. Somewhere below, a farmer discovers his vineyard now grows surprise kiwis. He faints respectfully. You drift through the transformed air. It's more balanced now, more inclusive, a little less sticky, a little more citrus sassy. One melon spirit winks at you as it floats by on a banana leaf. You're not entirely sure what's real anymore. I'll allow a weekly rotation, Dionysus murmurs, already scribbling notes on a weather scroll. Tropical Tuesdays, melon mists, fig fog Fridays. You ask what happens if the grapes get jealous again. He shrugs. They'll ferment into drama. They always do. And just like that, the fruit rebellion dissolves into a cloud-based after-party. Raisins dance on mini scooters. A pair of pears try karaoke. A plum breaks down sobbing and is comforted by an empathetic storm cloud named Darlene. Below, the mortals report rainbow drizzle and confused cravings. One town tries to name the storm. The final vote. The juice war of Mount Olympus. You lie back on your cloud, now softened with melon dew, and let the drizzle settle on your eyelashes. The party's winding down. The sky is calmer, for now, and the fruits, at last, have found their voice. The weather settles into a sulky sort of peace. The drizzle purrs now, not because it's content, but because it's been politely asked to tone it down. Somewhere in the corner of the sky, the grape clouds huddle, sipping from flasks of concentrated thunder, quietly plotting their return to the spotlight. But for now, calmish. Then, as you're about to finally recline into what might have been your first moment of actual relaxation, a distant horn blows, a long, mournful wail. Somewhere between a warning and a bored sigh, Dionysus stiffens. Oh no, don't tell me. Another blast closer this time. Yup, he mutters. The weather oracles are on strike. You blink, that's a thing. Oh, absolutely, he says, eyes darting toward the horizon. You think those dramatic temple ladies just breathe in smoke and spout riddles for fun? No, they have a union. A very dramatic union. And sure enough, rising over a distant ridge of thunderclouds comes a procession of high priestesses from Delphi, all in matching robes and holding scrolls in one hand and empty teacups in the other. Their leader, an ancient oracle named Merope, marches at the front, sandals squeaking on the mist with every indignantly mystical step. The closer they get, the louder their grievances. Too many weather flavors. Divination requires clarity, not Pinot Noir precipitation. We demand our prophecies back. You step aside as the procession flows past, chanting things like, no humidity without consultation, and the fog made me cry in front of a customer. Dionysus waves sheepishly. Ladies, let's not be rash. We can work something out. How about a neutral mist zone? Merope stops mid-stride. She is small, bold, and shaped like a grudge. Neutral mist zone. She echoes, you made it rain jelly on the Acropolis. You freeze. I'm sorry, did she say jelly? Merope points a finger toward Dionysus, trembling with sacred rage. Yeah? Gelatinous drizzle. There were bees, and screaming, and at least one elderly man who got stuck inside a fig custard tornado. Dionysus rubs the back of his neck. I might have tested a dessert storm prototype. You know? Rain, that's also a snack. You stare at him. Did it work? Oh, very much so. He beams, except it jiggled downhill and took out a wedding. Historians still debate whether this event ever occurred. Some say it's a metaphor for indulgence. Others insist ancient texts reference a pudding wind that ravaged Attica for precisely 12 minutes before melting under Apollo's sun. A fringe group believes the whole jelly storm was a divine prank orchestrated by Hera. But more on her soon. Merope rolls out a scroll dramatically. We, the oracles of the Mediterranean Atmospheric Guild, hereby refuse to interpret any omens, read any entrails, or peer into any slightly suspicious goat dreams until the skies return to baseline. Dionysus pouts. Define baseline. Gray, boring, respectable. She snaps. Fog should not flirt with widows. You step back and let the two of them argue. Behind you, a small cluster of weather sprites are huddled together, drawing protest signs on lightning leaves. One of them squeaks, "Justice for whimsical rain," before scuttling off into the mist. Meanwhile, down on Earth, chaos continues. Farmers can't predict when to sow. Sailors refuse to leave port under citrus-threatening clouds. A group of children in Thebes has started bottling fog to sell as perfume. Now in flavors, melancholy, lemon and existential elderberry. Several schools close due to emotional dampness. Even the sacred fires at temples begin to act up. Flames snuff themselves out with a dramatic sigh whenever the humidity gets too clingy. Dionysus finally throws up his hands. Fine. You want boring fog? Here, take it. With a sweep of his vine-wrapped arm, the vibrant sky dims. The clouds dull to beige. The drizzle loses its scent. The thunder ceases its jazz solos. The air goes silent. It's like someone wrung the joy out of the sky and poured it into a bureaucratic filing cabinet. Merope nods solemnly. Much better. This is real prophecy weather. You feel it instantly. The change. The spark is gone. No perfume in the air. No giggling thunder. Just weather. Functional. Beige. Emotionally beige. Even the grapes droop. Dionysus sits beside you, deflated. They'll be back, he mutters. They always come back. No one actually enjoys predictable weather. You nudge him. What now? He smirks faintly. Now, we wait for Hera. Your spine stiffens slightly. Hera, she hates my weather. Thinks it's juvenile. But she loves paperwork, and you can bet she's already drawing up storm regulations. Sure enough, lightning flashes on the far horizon, not wild and grape-flavored, but precise, clean, official-looking. Hera's storm front has arrived, armed with legal clauses and a barometric smugness. But that's a story for next time. For now, you rest on your flavorless cloud. Surrounded by mildly annoyed weather sprites and sulking grapes, the sky is silent. The drizzle is neutral. The oracles are smug. And yet, something tells you this calm won't last. The quiet is suspicious. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that only happens right before something deeply inconvenient arrives wearing a sash and an official seal. You sit on your now flavorless cloud, watching as the world below tries to recover from a week of drunken humidity, fruit revolutions, and theatrical thunder. You can hear one of the oracles grumbling in the distance. At least it's not raining appetizers anymore. But then, it happens. The drizzle changes. Again. Not dramatically, not flamboyantly. This time it wobbles. It lands in soft, squishy splats. It sticks to roofs, to goats, to oracles. One unlucky Athenian baker opens his window and screams, "It's gelatin!" Again. Dionysus perks up. "Oh no," you whisper. He stands slowly, head tilted, eyes narrowing toward the horizon. "I didn't do this," he murmurs. You raise an eyebrow. "Really?" "Because it smells like sugared grapes and poor impulse control. I didn't do this," he insists. My storms wobble diagonally. This is a vertical jiggle. Sure enough, the skies over Athens begin to shimmer with the unmistakable glisten of weather jelly. It falls in translucent, slow-motion globs. Birds bounce off mid-air. A statue sneezes. And below, a full-blown meltdown. Priests are slipping on the temple stairs. Market stalls collapse under the weight of raspberry-colored mist. One scholar attempts to document it, but his scroll gets soggy and tells him he's doing great. Sweetie, before dissolving entirely, Dionysus grabs his weather goblet and stares into it like a sommelier at a cursed vineyard. Someone's tampering with the drizzle. You step carefully onto a firmer patch of cloud as thunder rolls in, not playful, not poetic. This thunder is dry, rigid, responsible. And then Hera arrives. She does not walk. She arrives. The clouds part like disciplined dancers. Her robe ripples with storm seams. Her sandals leave trails of chastising wind. And in her hand, a scroll so long it drags behind her like a very well-organized accusation. "Dionysus," she says, her voice like freshly sharpened marble. "I warned you. You freeze." Even the oracles step back. He attempts a smile. "Hera, you're glowing. Is that a new legal edict?" She doesn't answer. Instead, she unfurls the scroll. It's covered in neat, gold script. At the bottom is Zeus's signature, slightly smeared by grape jelly. "This," she announces, "is a cease and desist of atmospheric impropriety. You are hereby forbidden from flavoring weather, fermenting fog, intoxicating clouds, or in any way encouraging the skies to vibe." You glance at Dionysus. His left eye twitches. "But the drizzle isn't even mine this time," he says, pointing to the jelly fall. "Oh, I know," Hera says calmly. "That's mine. I made it." You blink. "Wait, you made jelly rain?" She nods with frightening serenity. If mortals are going to whine about weather, they'll get something to really complain about. Grape jelly drizzle. Every morning. For the next 3 weeks. You wanted chaos. Dear nephew. Now it's bureaucratically scheduled. Dionysus looks physically ill. A mainstream historical note. Hera was considered the goddess of marriage, queenship, and order, but lesser-known hymns describe her as the patroness of punishment through elegance. One fragment reads, "She smiled, and the crops withered politely." Some fringe scholars believe Hera once controlled a weather system specifically designed to be inconvenient, not deadly, just maddening. Back in the sky, you hear the low squelch of thunder jelly landing on a philosopher's wig. Below, the city descends into full-blown wobble-induced panic. Merope the oracle cries out, "We're being passive-aggressively punished." Before slipping on a gelatinous temple step, children scream with delight. Parents scream with dread. A chorus of frogs begins singing the national anthem in slow, sticky harmony. Dionysus turns to you, wide-eyed. She's turning the sky into a condiment. You whisper, "We need to stop her." "Oh no," he says. "You don't stop Hera. You bargain. You bribe. You grovel while slowly backing away and offering her organizational charts. You nod. So what's the plan?" He inhales, squares his shoulders, and says, "We distract her. Then I sneak into the sky's flavor layer and reverse the jelly drip using a thunder funnel and a backup scroll of chaotic intent." You pause. "That's not a plan. That's a myth." "Exactly." He winks. "Let's go make one." You both dart through the cloud banks, dodging falling spoonfuls of plum-smelling drizzle. Hera is now rewriting the forecast by hand, assigning every region a specific jelly schedule. Tuesday, blackberry glop. Thursday, citrus gravy storm. You loop behind her, slipping through a crack in the clouds where the humidity has started to whisper in hushed tones. Dionysus leads you through the sky's underlayers, places no mortal should see. The flavor core. It glows with pulsing streaks of liquid mood, veins of drizzle, reservoirs of storm emotion, thunder barrels marked "Do not age past spring." He pulls a vine-tipped lever, flips a dial labeled "Wobble Intensity," and mutters, "Okay, just need to purge the jelly and restart the drizzle with a neutral, non-sentient mist." But the flavor core resists. It likes jelly now. It remembers. Above you, Hera frowns. Something's changed. You whisper, "Hurry!" Dionysus yanks the master vine, shouts a ritual phrase in Storm Greek, and gets zapped directly in the beard by a rebellious lightning bolt. The jelly begins to thin. The mist cools. The drizzle normalizes. Hera narrows her eyes. Below, the mortals cheer but carefully. No one trusts a sky that jiggled. Dionysus falls back, smoking slightly. "I did it. I flavor neutralized the heavens." You offer him a hand up and the jelly. He grins, gone. Until the next seasonal review. Hera appears behind you, arms crossed. "I still expect a written apology." In haiku. He bows, already scented with regret. The drizzle, now soft and unscented, falls quietly. The skies breathe again. The world, for now, has been spared from being coated in royal preserves. But you have a strange feeling. The raisins are next. You'd think, after grape storms and jelly rain, that the skies might give you a break. You'd be wrong. It's been a full 12 hours since Dionysus reset the drizzle to normal. The oracles have stopped slipping. Farmers have gone back to arguing about goats. Even the frogs have returned to their regularly scheduled croaking. But now the wind starts smelling like rosemary. You sniff again. Yep, definitely herbs. A light breeze rolls past and rustles your toga. Wait. When did you put on a toga? And with it comes a wave of something floral, woodsy, and vaguely culinary. You raise your head. The clouds are green. Dionysus scrambles up beside you, eyes wide. "Oh no, not again." A gust hits both of you. Your eyes water. It's powerful, almost spicy. Like walking into a kitchen during a family argument about pasta. You look at him, blinking. "What is this?" He pinches the air between his fingers and inhales. "Oregano." You pause. "I'm sorry. Did the sky just season itself?" He nods grimly. The oregano wind. From the distance comes a low whoosh, and the next thing you know, the entire northern sky bursts into green mist. Not fog, mist. Herbaceous, aromatic, full of attitude. Clouds churn like a simmering soup. Rain falls in thick drops that smell like meatballs and vague disappointment. A tomato-colored puff dances across the horizon. It's followed by a basil-scented vortex. You cough. "This is pasta weather." He nods again. "It wasn't supposed to be." You duck as a rogue lasagna sheet flaps overhead like an angry kite. Somewhere down below, villagers scream. The ravioli is rising. Turns out, one of Dionysus's lesser-known weather apprentices, an overly enthusiastic satyr named Miras, has been experimenting. He wanted to design home-cooked air, a rustic atmosphere, something that reminded people of safety, warmth, and overbearing grandmothers. Instead, he created a Greek salad tornado. The swirl builds just south of the olive cloud bank. You can see it spiraling a gust of tomatoes, cucumbers, feta cubes, red onion shrapnel, and the occasional rogue breadstick. The whole thing smells delicious and deeply upsetting. Dionysus yells. He didn't stabilize the vinegar currents. You both duck as the tornado whooshes by, smacking two weather sprites out of the air and replacing them with mint leaves. A goat attempts to eat the vortex and is flung halfway to Crete. Down on Earth, temple fires sputter in confusion. People can't tell if they're being attacked or invited to dinner. One Athenian mother raises her hands to the sky and pleads, "Can it at least be low sodium?" Mainstream historians record no official incidents of airborne salads, but one peculiar scroll found in a ruined kitchen near Thebes describes a year of seasoned winds, during which entire villages wept openly at the scent of oregano-laced clouds. Some believe it was a harvest hallucination. Others point to Dionysus. Naturally, a fringe theory claims Hera created the herb sky in retaliation for a wine-flavored hailstorm that ruined her peonies. You float beside Dionysus as he surveys the mess. "We can fix it," he mutters. "We just have to reverse the salad spiral and vent the parsley pressure." You frown. "How do you vent parsley?" He shrugs. Quickly, you both fly up to the apex of the salad storm. Inside, the wind tastes like vinegar and betrayal. Merhus the Sutter clings to a floating crouton, frantically scribbling flavor notes on a scroll that keeps dissolving. "I was so close," he cries. "I wanted the sky to taste like comfort. You made it taste like a food fight." Dionysus yells back, "This isn't comfort. It's calamity a la carte." A cube of feta smacks you in the temple. Inside the storm, things grow more theatrical. A thunderclap shakes the sky. But instead of lightning, it releases a spray of olive oil mist. You slip. You slide. You cling to a breadstick-shaped weather vane as Dionysus shouts ancient wind commands. "Breathe. Sky. Exhale the time." A blast of sage-scented wind knocks Merhus into a puddle of vinaigrette. The tornado begins to slow. The ingredients fall gently. Like a drizzle of regret, you tumble out with the rest of the dressing. Below, mortals emerge from their homes, covered in arugula. One elderly man announces, "I'm emotionally prepared for war now, but also very full." Dionysus floats beside you, bruised but alive, holding a damp mint sprig in his teeth. "That," he says, "was the oregano incident." You cough up a cherry tomato. Historians will never believe it. "They shouldn't," he smirks, "but they will." Eventually, you lie back on a patch of lettuce-scented sky. The storm has passed. The salad has mostly dispersed. The clouds go quiet again, save for one very confused cucumber spiraling into space. Dionysus turns to you, face serious for once. "We need to talk." "Oh no." The other gods are watching now. Hera's already furious. Poseidon thinks this is hilarious and wants to try anchovy weather. Hades sent a note that just says, "Please stop." You nod. "That sounds fair." And Zeus, Dionysus sighs. He hasn't said anything. That's the scariest part. You feel a drop of something fall on your nose. You sniff it. Just plain water. No flavor, no herb, no giggle. The storm is finally normal. But that's when you see it. A slow, purple cloud creeping back into view. Grape. Determined. Holding a spoon, you whisper, "We are not done." The grape cloud moves slowly, but with intent. It doesn't bounce. It doesn't wobble. It glides like it knows exactly where it's going and has already scheduled a follow-up disaster. You and Dionysus watch in silence as it creeps across the sky, trailing a thread of purple vapor behind it like a smug ribbon. Somewhere in the distance, thunder clears its throat. Dionysus speaks first. "That," he says, "is the return of grape lightning." You blink. "I'm sorry. I thought we didn't. We neutralized that." He nods grimly. "We did. But the barrels must have aged in secret." Sure enough, the cloud splits open with a loud, sugary crack and outpours a bolt of grape lightning. It's bright violet. It smells like overripe ambition and childhood juice boxes. And it hits the sky not with a bang, but with a splat. And here's the twist it sings. You glance at Dionysus, who is already pulling on his safety sandals. You made the lightning musical. I didn't mean to, he says, ducking as another bolt zips past, crooning a love ballad in the key of E-flat. I was experimenting with theatrical weather effects. I wanted thunder to have more flair. Another bolt hits the sky like a cymbal crash. Below, sheep start dancing involuntarily. A fisherman drops his net and begins to waltz with a barrel. This is show tune lightning, you whisper. Yes, Dionysus says, and I think it's about to open a second act. You're not wrong. The clouds part just enough to reveal a makeshift sky stage constructed entirely from lightning scaffolding and fog curtains. A choir of weather sprites, dressed in grape leaf capes and holding tiny lyres, starts humming ominously. Then the bolts return, and this time, they don't just sing, they perform. Each one is accompanied by a gust of wind that slams into the side of the sky like an opening curtain. Flash after flash, the bolts arc dramatically, zigzagging with precision, each carrying a different note, a different scent. Tart, floral, fizzy. The mortals are beside themselves. Literally, many of them have backed out of their own homes and now stand nervously next to themselves in metaphorical disbelief. Some try to record the phenomenon on shards of polished bronze. Others just stare, mouthing, "Is this theater?" One priest writes on a scroll. A lightning bolt asked me how I feel about abandonment issues. You and Dionysus fly closer to the storm stage. Inside the grape lightning chamber, the air is thick with chords and static and faint notes of apology. One bolt lands just inches from your feet, then whispers, "You deserve better." You step back. "This is deeply emotional lightning," you mutter. Yes. Dionysus nods. It's called cathartic weather. My masterpiece. Mainstream historians rarely mention emotional lightning, but an obscure vase painting from a remote village in Epirus depicts a storm cloud crying into a crowd while lightning bolts cradle theater masks. A fringe scholar once suggested this was evidence of Dionysian weather opera, banned by Zeus after it caused mass weeping and impromptu sonnets during a tax festival. The sky trembles. Then, the central bolt strikes. It splits the cloud with a roar that harmonizes, seriously harmonizes. 3 parts. Sopranos, strings, ambient bass. The world pauses. Even the goats hold their breath. And from the core of the cloud comes the grape barrel chariot. Dionysus gasps. Oh no, that's him. The chariot is made from aged wine barrels. The wheels are rotating thunder cymbals. The reins, braided vines soaked in fermented mist. And at the helm stands Dionysus himself, another Dionysus, slightly taller, more dramatic, wearing eyeliner and what appears to be a velvet cape embroidered with the phrase, "Act 2 begins now." You turn to Dionysus beside you. "Is that you?" He sighs. "That's my old weather theater persona. I locked him in a bottle years ago after the sonnet hail fiasco. You bottled a version of yourself. It was a phase," he grumbles. "Very misunderstood. Extremely choreographed. The grape chariot." Dionysus, let's call him Staginisus, points dramatically and begins a monologue. "Citizens of the sky, mortals of mildew, prepare yourselves for the revelation of rain." You whisper to real Dionysus. Is he quoting Euripides? No, he sighs. He's quoting himself. The lightning orchestra swells. The clouds shimmer with musical tension. Below, mortals begin weeping for no reason. One woman claims the drizzle helped her forgive her ex. The storm breaks into full force by Aigael's performance. It's not just rain anymore, it's choreography. Drizzle that taps like tap shoes, fog that dips like a waltz, thunder that pulses like a bass drum in a tragic slow jam. And in the center of it all, Staginisus sings, "Let the rain fall." Not in drops, but in forgotten metaphors. You turn to Dionysus, blinking. Is this a weather-based one-man show? He nods grimly. And unless we stop him, the world will never have normal rain again, only interpretive drizzle. He pulls out a scroll half-scorched, tied with a ribbon, and labeled Plan B. De-melodramatize the atmosphere. He hands it to you. We need to out-theater him. He says, you blink. What? You heard me? We go bigger, more dramatic, but stupid. Stupid enough to make his storm collapse under the weight of its own seriousness. You take a deep breath, turn toward the stage-shaped storm and whisper the words you never thought you'd have to say. Let's create counter-lightning. With interpretive sarcasm, the plan is madness, not even stylish, romantic, brooding madness, just sheer, unfiltered absurdity. And that's exactly why it might work. Dionysus is pacing across a chunk of floating thunderhead, muttering stage directions like, needs more irony in the upper troposphere. And if we're going down, we're doing it in iambic sarcasm. You're not even sure what that means anymore. Below, Dionysus is deep into his third act, now delivering a tearful monologue while lightning bolts freeze midair behind him in dramatic tableaus. He tosses his velvet cape into the drizzle and yells, "Let the storm cleanse my metaphors." Somewhere, a tree sprouts purple flowers and then immediately faints. You and real Dionysus have 10 minutes, tops. He hands you a vine lute. You blink. Why do I need a, Because counter-lightning is generated by emotionally mismatched musical tones, he says, strapping on a tambourine with thunder charms. It's like dissonance, but with more shame. You strum the lute. It responds with a flat thunk, like an exhausted ukulele. Perfect, he says. Let's irritate the sky. You both ascend. High above Dionysus's weather theater, you float into the unscripted layers. The clouds that haven't been assigned a mood or lighting direction yet. Up here, things are raw, stubborn, waiting. Dionysus raises his arms and calls out in a booming voice, "I summon the winds of overreaction." Nothing happens. Then he coughs, adds, "Please." A breeze shows up, slightly confused, wearing a scarf. You name it, Dave. You and Dionysus begin your show. It's terrible. Your lute is out of tune. His tambourine drops twice. You accidentally summon a drizzle shaped like a sad dog, but slowly, gloriously. The absurdity builds. You sing a ballad about socks that disappear in clouds. Dionysus reads weather reports in falsetto. You choreograph a fog ballet with only elbows. He shouts a haiku at a confused thundercloud. Rain smells like pickles. I didn't ask for this mist. Why is the sky loud? The clouds shudder. Below, Dionysus pauses. What? Is that nonsense? Dionysus grins. Keep going. Confuse the thunder. You do a dramatic reading of a love letter to a cumulonimbus. It ends with the line, "I can't marry you. Sharon, you're 78% moisture." Dionysus tosses literal glitter into a fog bank and yells, "This isn't even my final form." The sky cracks. Not just lightning. The actual script breaks. One of the lightning bolts behind Dionysus wavers, starts sobbing, and then unravels into grape vapor. Dionysus frowns. No, no, my vision, my storm opera. He throws a hand to his forehead. A thunderclap plays an off-key chord. A nearby drizzle begins quoting knock-knock jokes. The sky is losing the plot. Dionysus leans in. Time for the finishing blow. You ask, "Do we have one?" He smiles. "Oh yes." We humiliate him with grape barrels. You blink. "You mean the rolling ones?" He nods and summons them. From the far reaches of the sky, giant barrels come thundering forward, rolling in slow motion, bouncing off clouds, echoing through the heavens with a sound that's halfway between slapstick and divine intervention. Dionysus turns just in time to be gently but symbolically steamrolled by 3 of them. The last one sprays grape mist in a perfect spiral before crashing into his velvet backdrop, which flutters into shameful silence. The lightning dims. The choir of weather sprites packs up their lyres and slips out the side. One mutters, "I didn't rehearse for this." Silence falls. You hover there, waiting. And then, from the grape-drenched wreckage, Dionysus emerges wine-stained, hair mussed, eyeliner smudged. He looks around. Then he sighs. "Fine," he says, dramatically. "Let the skies go back to being subtle." You exhale. Dionysus does a quiet victory shimmy. The clouds begin to re-stabilize. Down below, mortals cautiously emerge from their drizzle shelters. A priest nods and says, "I think the sky just went through a breakup." Mainstream history never mentions this celestial duel, but one obscure fragment of scroll describes a mysterious battle of the theatrical rains, during which the weather briefly developed a crush on itself and had to be gently discouraged with awkward poetry. As the grape clouds clear, Dionysus kneels beside Dionysus and gently pats his shoulder. "You were fabulous. but also terrifying. Maybe take a break. Dionysus nods solemnly. I shall return. When the forecast needs emotion, he dissolves into a swirl of bittersweet mist and dramatic exit music. You and Dionysus descend slowly, the sky humming softly with post-drama drizzle. The air feels lighter. The thunder snores quietly in the distance. He turns to you. You were brilliant. You shrug. I just rhymed dew point with oink. Exactly. He grins. That's the kind of nonsense that keeps the heavens grounded. The grape lightning has passed. The opera is over. But somewhere out there, a cloud is already writing its own script. The sky needs a nap after everything it's been through. Grape lightning areas, jelly rainstorms, a salad tornado, it's finally gone quiet. You lie belly up on a patch of well-behaved cumulus, letting the breeze ruffle your hair like a proud grandparent who just watched you survive something no mortal really should have survived. Even Dionysus looks tired. He's sipping plain drizzle from a chipped amphora and absent-mindedly flicking crumbs of feta into a passing breeze. You both sit in the hush, eyes on the horizon. Then a bronze envelope flutters down from above. You blink. Did someone just mail us? Dionysus snatches it midair. Not someone, he mutters, breaking the wax seal with his thumbnail vine. The gods. You lean in, trying to read over his shoulder. The scroll is crisp, official, and lightly glowing. 2. Dionysus, Lord of Libations, Experimental Weather, and Mild Nuisance. From Olympus Board of Seasonal Affairs. Subject: summons to attend meteorological summit of divine protocols. Dress code: semi-divine. No sandals with thunder motifs. He groans. They're forming a committee. Is that bad? It means meetings. Eternal. Circular meetings where no one agrees but everyone brings cheese. You pause. Will there be snacks? Absolutely. He nods, but at what cost? With a sigh, he slaps the scroll shut and gestures for you to follow. Come on, if they're voting on whether party weather counts as sabotage, I'm going down swinging. You fly through the lower clouds, through a ribbon of unflavored fog that smells vaguely like paperwork. At last, the Council of Divine Meteorology comes into view, a ring of sky islands, each occupied by a major deity, arranged like the world's most passive-aggressive dinner table. There's Apollo, bronzed and yawning into his sunbeam. Poseidon, dripping slightly and stirring a weather martini with a coral spear. Demeter, armed with an angry turnip. Hermes, texting on a scroll that keeps fluttering away. And in the center Hera, composed, immaculate. Armed with 12 bullet points and one terrifying glare, Dionysus lands with a dramatic swirl of mist. Hera wastes no time. We are here today to discuss the atmospheric crisis that nearly turned Macedonia into a regional dessert. Allegedly, Dionysus says, bowing. Not allegedly, she hisses. You were filmed declaring thunder too emotionally repressed. Hermes chimes in. To be fair, it was repressing a lot. Not the point. Hera snaps. The weather system has veered completely off script. Grape humidity, jelly rain, sentient drizzle. I had to exile 3 clouds to Crete for therapy. Apollo raises a hand. I liked the musical lightning. Poseidon shrugs. It made my kelp feel things. Demeter scowls. It ruined my barley. Dionysus steps forward. Yes, there were side effects, but look what we learned. Emotionally intelligent storms, fog that comforts, rain that sings apologies. Isn't that a better kind of weather? Hermes clears his throat. If I may, all heads turn. He taps a scroll, which projects a mid-air illusion villagers gathered under a grape storm, not panicking, but dancing, not terrified, but laughing. One is clearly holding a glass of drizzle and complimenting a pigeon. There was chaos, Hermes says, but there was joy. People sang, hugged. Several goats began journaling. Maybe we don't need to erase it. Maybe we refine it. Hera folds her arms. So you're proposing what? Exactly. Dionysus smiles. The party god, meteorological society, dead silence. You whisper, we're doing this. Oh yes, he says. A scroll unrolls behind him, self-illuminating with beautiful absurdity. Charter of the party. God Meteorological Society. Rain shall be available in neutral, festive, and emotional collapse modes. Clouds may sing, but only in designated chorus zones. Storms may contain traces of wine, glitter, or unresolved tension. 1 month per year shall be reserved for experimental drizzle. Demeter blinks. You want to institutionalize mood weather. Poseidon raises a trident. I second the motion. Apollo grins. If I can DJ the thunder, I'm in. Hermes nods. I'll manage the paperwork. Badly. Even Hera, after a long sigh, says, fine. But the jelly rain never happens again. Dionysus clasps his hands. Deal. And so, just like that, the gods vote. The sky now has a committee. You fly away with Dionysus, watching the clouds gently shift into the first official society-approved reflective afternoon mist. Below, the mortals squint upward, sense the change, and just for a moment smile for no reason. You turn to Dionysus. What happens now? He grins. Now, we make grape snow. You're halfway through congratulating yourselves when Dionysus pulls a suspiciously oversized scroll out of his toga. Don't ask where I kept this, he says, unrolling it across a passing stratus cloud. At the top, written in enthusiastic, looping calligraphy, Phase 2, the frozen forecast. You freeze. This is about the grape snow, isn't it? He nods solemnly. We've conquered the skies. Now we conquer the flakes. You try to object gently, firmly, with the kind of wisdom that only comes from living through a vinaigrette tornado. But he's already knee-deep in sketching cloud schematics with a piece of enchanted charcoal. I call it vintage snowfall, each flake infused with notes of blackcurrant, nostalgia, and a hint of cinnamon confusion. Before you can finish whispering, nope, 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 he shouts to the stratosphere and blasts off, dragging you behind him in a trail of sparkly frost. Moments later, you find yourselves above the cloud line, where the air is thinner, the winds sassier, and the temperature so cold, your thoughts begin to crystallize mid-sentence. Dionysus has already summoned an assembly of snow spirits, all wearing capes made of ice chips and whispering in haikus. One of them hands you a snowflake on a napkin. It smells like wine. Dionysus claps. Perfect. If we embed each flake with a micro-vibe, we can program the snow to fall based on emotional temperature. Wait, you say, wiping slush off your eyelids. What's emotional temperature? He shrugs. Oh, you know, like if a town's feeling nostalgic, it snows gently and smells like old letters. If they're stressed, it flurries with calming chamomile ice. If they're bitter, he pauses, smirking. Hail, you should stop him. You really should. But a snowflake just landed on your tongue and reminded you of your grandmother's soup, and now you're weeping quietly into your toga. Back down on Earth. The first trial flurry begins. It starts in Delphi, of course it does, and the oracles run outside, catch the flakes, and immediately start prophesying in verse. One shouts, I can see my past mistakes, and throws herself into a gentle snowbank that smells faintly of lemon balm and closure. Elsewhere, shepherds report weirdly comforting sleet. One potter in Corinth claims the snowfall apologized to him for ruining his first marriage. And over in Sparta, nothing happens. The snow tries to fall but gets scared and retreats. You and Dionysus drift lower to observe the effects. The sky is stunning. Soft swirls of lavender snowfall. Silent. Thoughtful. Full of flavor and feeling. Each flake designed to gently inconvenience no one, but inspire everyone. I think this might be your most stable weather invention yet. You say, Dionysus beams. I know. I even built in a failsafe. The flakes evaporate before causing traffic delays. But just as you start to relax, a new sound, like crunching sugar under steel sandals. Gaia rises. No warning. No lightning. No royal trumpet solos. She just emerges ancient, vast, composed entirely of soil and silence. Her eyes like moss and stone. Dionysus nearly drops his weather flute. Oh gods, he breathes. Mom's mad. You hover back as Gaia towers over the cloudscape. She doesn't shout. She doesn't roar. She simply looks at the grape snow and raises one heavy, vine-covered brow. This again, she says. Dionysus gulps. Yes, but it's refined now. Harmonized. Non-slip. Gaia kneels. The earth itself sighs beneath her. You've flavored the atmosphere, fermented the fog, dramatized the drizzle. And now, you're flavoring winter. She plucks a flake from the air and lets it melt on her tongue. Her expression is unreadable. Then, finally, she says, tastes like performance anxiety and mulled regret. That was a Corinthian batch. Dionysus mutters. Gaia glances at the sky. Vines begin growing from the undersides of snow clouds. They wind down gently, reaching toward the ground. The earth, she says slowly, wasn't meant to host mood weather. You cough. Technically, it's only during daylight hours. We've added a lunar cool-down option. She turns toward you with the unblinking calm of someone who once gave birth to volcanoes. My volcanoes do not snow whine. She gestures broadly. This much emotion in the air, and something will root. You flavor the rain, the clouds, the snow, and the soil absorbs it. Dionysus frowns. You're saying my snow is dangerous? I'm saying it's fertile. You feed the earth enough longing and nostalgia, and it grows strange things. As if to prove her point, a tree sprouts nearby, instantly, from the sky, upside down. Its fruit, bottled messages. One says, I miss your face. Another reads, wish I had danced that night. You stare. That wasn't on the forecast. Gaia rises again, slowly. Flavor, if you must, but know this, the earth remembers. And with that, she descends, disappearing into a bed of moss that wasn't there 2 minutes ago. You and Dionysus stand in silence. Then he mutters, well, that wasn't not ominous. A grape snowflake lands on your shoulder. You flick it off gently, wondering what it might grow into later. Above, the clouds shiver. You suspect winter just got a lot more personal. You descend slowly through a swirl of emotional frost. Your toga now dusted with flakes that smell like bittersweet apologies and very specific childhood memories. Dionysus is silent beside you, which is unsettling. This is a god who once narrated his own dreams aloud, with backup vocals. What are you thinking? You ask. He exhales through his nose. I'm thinking Gaia might be right. I may have over-infused the atmosphere. You glance around. The skies look calm enough, but below, things are beginning to sprout. Not crops, not flowers, something else. The first reports come in from a shepherd near Thessaly. His pasture has grown a vine. Nothing new there except this one whispers compliments to his sheep. A few miles away, an olive tree starts shedding leaves shaped like apology letters. In Corinth, an entire hillside grows grape-shaped balloons that pop if you say anything emotionally repressed near them. Okay, Dionysus says, nervously clutching his amphora. Slight overcorrection. We'll just reset the soil vibe. Easy. You give him a look. How do you reset the soil vibe? He doesn't answer. Instead, he zips off toward a mountaintop where a group of farmers is currently trying to reason with a sentient vine that refuses to be harvested unless spoken to in rhyming couplets. You follow close behind, watching the earth bloom with every passing breeze. In Athens, ivy grows between cobblestones, curling into shapes of memory. A mother's hands, a lover's profile, a loaf of bread someone regrets not buying. In one village, the air smells like breakups and basil. What did you put in those snowflakes? You ask. Dionysus looks sheepish. A little nostalgia, some fermented courage, and maybe a drop of longing. You blink. Longing. Only a drop. It was aged, organic, locally sourced. He waves his hands dramatically, attempting to summon a counter-rain, a nice, boring shower of neutral mist. Nothing happens. The clouds, it seems, are in their feelings. Even the thunder seems moody. You hear one low rumble that sounds like a sigh, a mainstream historical note. Greek myths rarely mention weather-induced emotional agriculture, but one rare fragment of the Delphic prophecies describes the year of blooming memories, when vines refused to die, herbs sang lullabies, and a mountain goat cried for 3 days. Most scholars assume this was metaphor. You now realize it wasn't. Dionysus drags you into an emergency vineyard meeting. The party god Meteorological Society has convened again, this time seated on barrels, surrounded by bushes that keep whispering. Tell them how you really feel. Apollo arrives late, glittering and unbothered. The sun just sprouted a sunflower from itself. Is that new? Poseidon throws up his hands. The ocean's growing emotional kelp. It wrapped around one of my dolphins and told him he needs to set boundaries. Hera enters next. She's holding a clipboard. and wearing an expression that has caused cities to fall. Dionysus, she says, your snow is making the planet too emotionally available. He shrinks a bit. Is that bad? Mortals are starting to monologue at trees. One just proposed to a cloud. Demeter slams a turnip on the table. My barley won't stop telling me about its dreams. Hermes zips in with a scroll. Update. The goats are journaling again. Also, there's a new prophecy, written entirely in grape leaves. You unroll it. The message is simple. If you flavor the skies, the roots remember. Silence falls. Dionysus clears his throat. We could tone it down. Maybe dilute the snow with something less volatile, like emotional ambiguity. Hera pinches the bridge of her nose. You will return the weather to seasonal neutrality. No more lavender longing. No more time-scented drizzle. And absolutely no more crooning flurries. Dionysus hesitates. What if we just keep 1 week? A little nostalgia drizzle, like seasoning. She glares. No, she says flatly. You'll create a reverse storm, something to drain the atmosphere of all that lingering sentiment. You whisper, that sounds ominous. It is, Hera replies. It's called the forgetting wind. A chill goes through you that has nothing to do with altitude. The forgetting wind. You've heard of it only in fragments, whispers, and myth. A breeze that erases memory. Not violently, not cruelly, but with slow, polite indifference. The kind of wind that brushes past and takes with it the scent of someone's voice. A breeze that carries away your favorite laugh without asking. Dionysus frowns. But if we let that loose, people won't just forget the storms. They'll forget what made them feel. Hera crosses her arms. Exactly. A reset. Back to predictable, manageable, emotionless drizzle. The room goes quiet. You lock eyes with Dionysus. Behind him, a tiny vine has wrapped itself around his wrist. It doesn't squeeze. It just holds on. I won't do it, he says. Everyone freezes. I made the weather wild, messy, giggling, full of regret and raisins, he says, stepping forward. And yeah, maybe it got out of hand. But mortals felt something. They danced in rain. They forgave under snow. One of them wrote a haiku about their ex and gave it to a tree. Hermes wipes a tear. Poseidon sniffs. My kelp really did need that hug. Even Hera, stone-faced as she is, softens for half a heartbeat. But then the wind shifts. A cold, flavorless breeze curls in from the horizon. You don't hear it. You just feel a memory slip. Nothing big, just something small. The smell of your favorite bakery. The way grape mist felt the first time it surprised you. Dionysus turns sharply. She's already called it. You both look out. The forgetting wind is coming. The forgetting wind moves slowly. Not with drama, not with flair. It doesn't spiral, shimmer, or sing. It just glides forward gentle, pale, and almost polite in its erasure. The sky pales where it passes. Grape clouds blink out of memory. Vines untwist. Snow loses its scent. You shiver, not from cold, but from a sudden awareness that the sky has gone quiet in the wrong way. Dionysus stares across the cloudscape, lips parted, eyes wide. They're forgetting already. Below, the world is shifting. A poet in Delphi stares at a blank scroll, unable to remember what she'd just written. In Thebes, a baker stops mid-laugh, turns, and asks no one in particular, what was I smiling about? A young shepherd, cradling a lamb, watches the last singing vine wither into plain ivy. Dionysus grips your arm. I can't let this happen. Behind you, Hera floats in stately silence. She's not gloating. She's not even angry anymore. She's resolved. This is for balance. She says simply, emotion clouds judgment. Memory anchors chaos. Let the mortals remember the weather, not the feeling. You want to argue, but something inside you is already slipping. You can't quite remember the melody of that lightning bolt song, or the way the oregano storm made your socks smell like soup and hope. Just fragments, evaporating. Dionysus snaps his fingers in front of your face. Hey, stay with me. I'm trying, you murmur. I think the wind took me. Nostalgia. He nods grimly. That's the first thing it eats. You both spin into action. Dionysus calls his sprites only half show up. The others have forgotten they were on the payroll. He tries to summon flavor back into the clouds, but the vines won't grow. The drizzle won't dance. Even the thunder has gone factual. A scroll falls from the sky. It lands in Dionysus's hands. He opens it, reads quickly, and groans. It's a global rewrite. he says. By sunset, the sky will no longer remember anything flavored. Not the rain, not the snow, not even the idea of jelly. Hermes appears beside you with a puff of worried wind. I've tried flying backward in time. The breeze won't let me. Of course it won't. Dionysus mutters, the forgetting. Wind doesn't fight, it waits. It unhooks what matters. It wins when you stop noticing. You scan the sky, the color palette is fading. Lavender clouds dull to gray. Gold-tinted snowflakes melt into anonymous wetness. Somewhere nearby, a lone weather sprite clutches an empty bottle and murmurs, I thought I used to sparkle. Okay, you say, voice shaking. How do we stop it? Dionysus closes his eyes. We plant something it can't forget. You stare. Like what? He opens his palm. Inside it, one last grape snowflake. Preserved, untouched, flickering softly with notes of regret, laughter, and fig-scented foolishness. He whispers, we turn memory into weather. He kneels on a flat patch of cloud. You kneel beside him. Hermes, confused but loyal, kneels too. Dionysus buries the snowflake in the center of the sky. The forgetting wind reaches you then soft, quiet, ready to wipe it all away. But something pushes back. The cloud beneath you glows. The snowflake cracks once, twice, and then blooms. Not into vines, not into rain, but into remembrance. From the crack, an aurora spills out, not light, but memory itself. It washes over the skies, bursting with color and scent, laughter soaked in drizzle. Thunder that once confessed its love, a baby goat that learned to pirouette in grape snow. The wind falters. It presses against the memory storm and recoils. You see it struggle, not out of malice, but confusion. It wasn't made to fight. It was made to erase. But here, this isn't just weather. This is story. This is shared chaos. And that sticks all across the sky. The world begins to remember again. The vines regrow. Cautiously, a drizzle hums. A toddler in Corinth suddenly throws her hands into the air and yells, the sky is grape again. Dionysus stands tall. Behind him, the aurora spirals upward, transforming into constellations shaped like wine goblets, awkward hugs, and slow-dancing thunderclouds. You whisper, did we win? He nods. Quietly. We didn't erase the forgetting wind, but we made it remember us first. Hera appears again, arms folded. Impressive, she admits. Annoying, but impressive. He bows. The world isn't built for neutrality. Hera, people want to feel, even if it's weird, even if it's messy. She eyes the sky now painted in sentimental pastel storm clouds. I suppose, she sighs. But at the very least, no more salad tornadoes, no promises. He grins. You collapse backward onto the clouds, exhausted, giddy, remembering everything. The grape snow begins to fall again, gently, with restraint, but still flavored, still intentional. And this time, no one runs from it. They taste it. They laugh. They write poems on the backs of receipts. Because even the gods can't unwrite what has already rooted itself into the soil of 1,000 small, ridiculous memories. And the sky at last smiles. You wake up to the softest sound. Snowflakes laughing, not loudly, not mockingly, just the faint, playful giggle of sky remembering how to be gentle. You blink. The sky above is lilac-tinged, dusted in the shyest shimmer of grape-flavored frost. And for a brief moment, everything feels like the inside of a long-forgotten dream. You stretch. Dionysus is already up. Of course, he's balancing on a floating crate of olives, feeding raisins to a weather sprite who keeps blowing tiny musical breezes into his face. Good morning, he says, tossing you a piece of warm cloud bread. I flavored the sunrise. You take a bite. It tastes like soft apologies and cinnamon. Below, the mortal world is waking too. In Athens, a young couple shares a cup of flavored sleet and murmurs something about trying again. In a small village near Delphi, an old man writes his first poem in 20 years and gives it to the wind. A goat paints a mural with its hooves. Somehow, it's beautiful, and floating quietly above it all is the new sky, partially regulated, slightly ridiculous, and completely unforgettable. You and Dionysus take one last walk through the upper air. The clouds wave. The rain spritzes affectionately. Even the thunder grumbles thanks in a low baritone. In the distance, a lone grape barrel drifts past like a loyal companion from another life. I think they'll be okay. You whisper. He nods. They'll forget some of it. The colors, the smells, the goat ballet. But not all of it. Not what mattered. You float together in peaceful silence, letting the wind tug gently at your sleeves. The air carries no threat, no weight, just the softness of things that stayed above you. A new constellation glimmers into place. A weather sprite dancing on a wine jug. Just beneath it, a spiral of stars shaped like a jelly drizzle. The sky remembers, in its own strange, scattered way. Dionysus leans back. I've got new ideas. By the way, you groan. Don't. Spaghetti fog. Lightning that apologizes mid-strike. A drizzle that teaches emotional boundaries. I'm going to fall asleep now. Fine. But I'm keeping notes. You close your eyes. The grape snow falls. Slower now. Softer. A little wiser. And in the hush of that impossible sky, you remember everything that made it ridiculous and beautiful and kind, and you let it go. Let your breath slow down now. Feel the soft flurries settling around your thoughts, each one a tiny memory absurd. Sweet, maybe sticky. But yours. The grape snow has thinned to just a whisper. You can still feel it in the quiet. The hum of purple clouds, the aftertaste of singing fog. And that thunder that once told you were doing just fine. Now, the skies are softer. The flavor has faded just enough to let you rest, but not so much that you forget entirely. Because memory doesn't need to shout, it lingers in the spaces between thoughts. In the warm weight of dreams, inhale slowly, exhale. Like the breeze beneath a sleeping vine. No more jelly rain to outrun. No salad storms to interpret. No gods hurling wine barrels at each other in an emotional panic. Just a calm, unhurried snowfall of gentle remembering. Tonight, the sky drizzles peace. You are weightless in that memory, safe in its strange sweetness. And as the world tilts just a little quieter, just a little slower, let go of the thunderclouds. Let go of the noise. Let the grape-flavored weather fade into the distance and drift off beneath the soft hush of a sky that finally learned how to sleep.